Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Marina Meira. I'm a project lead at Data Privacy Brazil Research Association. And today, along with my fellow researchers, Marina Garotte and Paschoalini, I will present to you our study on the digitalization of the Brazilian national identity system. Nathan, yes, thanks. Our study has been conducted on Data Privacy Brazil, which is a space of articulation between two distinct organizations, Data Privacy Teaching and Data Privacy Research. Data Privacy Teaching is a school that offers a wide range of courses on themes related to privacy and data protection. And Data Privacy Brazil Research is a nonprofit organization that works on research and advocacy on data protection. They're both different organizations, but in complementary ways, they intend to foment a data protection culture in Brazil. Nathan, next slide, please. The study we'll be presenting today was conducted at the Research Association, which is a space dedicated to researching topics related to privacy, data protection, and their intersections with other fundamental rights. Based on empirical and theoretical research, we develop our projects and produce relevant content which seeks to contribute to the construction and dissemination of knowledge, as well as to help regulators and decision makers in the public and private sectors. Our NGO is funded according to an ethical and transparent financing policy, and we conduct a series of projects on areas such as governance and regulation, power and asymmetries, and platforms and digital markets. Next slide, please. One of the projects of our research association, which is the project we have been conducting on digital IDs, started in June 2021, and it's funded by Open Society Foundations. Our focus is to understand how the settlement of a foundational digital ID ecosystem in Brazil has been planned and led, especially through a data protection lens. And that's what we want to discuss with you today. Further, in the next few months, our project will continue on to study if and how accountability measures have been incorporated into the settlement process of a foundational digital ID system in Brazil. Our aim is to produce knowledge on the importance of conducting data protection impact assessments for the deployment of digital IDs. So to continue our presentation today on the digitalization of the Brazilian national identity system, I will call my colleague Marina Garotte.
Hi, it's very nice to be here. So can we go to the next slide, Nata, please? So to talk a little bit about the Brazilian data protection context, if I had to say it in one phrase, it would be, it's all very new. Even though we had some previous regulations, like in the form of law and other regulation talking about data protection rights, our general data protection regulation only came into force in September 2020. Our administrative sanctions are yet to be regulated by the National Data Protection Authority. And the National Data Protection Authority itself, it's still fragile. It's not independent, it's subordinate to the presidency of the Republic in the administrative structure. It was only established on November 2020. It has not yet issued any substantial regulation on data protection. It's very much short-staffed. It's a little bit under 40 people right now. And from its 5 directors, 3 were from the military, and all are nominated by the president. To talk a little bit about the digital identity and the foundational identity in Brazil, we need to understand the digitalization of the government. There are 2 main instruments, the digital government strategy and the digital government law. Digital government strategy was a decree issued on April 2020, and the digital government law is a law that came into force on March 2021. They both signalized to a strong investment in the digitalization of government services, especially amid the pandemic. And one example of that is the implementation of a digital government platform, which is gov.br. Next slide, please. Gov.br, it's what I'm going to talk to you about. But why am I talking to you about that when we are talking about identity because the main current use of the national identity database is to authenticate users in the system, verifying their identity by the information they input and see if it matches the national identity database. Gov.br, it was created in August 2019, and it's both a unified website and app that has as its goal to centralize all digital government services from all levels, so city level, state level, and federal. Currently, more than 70% of government services are already digital or partially digital, and there are more than 110 million users. So it's more than half of the Brazilian population. There is one example that I would like to talk to you about of a pilot initiative in 2020 amid the pandemic that used the National Identity Database in the gov.br app that was the proof of life for retired people. So in Brazil, retired people have to prove they are alive to continue to receive their pensions. 500,000 people were invited to participate in that piloted initiative. And instead of going to a bank or going to a government agency to prove they were alive, they use their cell phones to take pictures of themselves or record a video, and through facial recognition, the app would state that they were alive, matching the pictures or the videos with the National Identity Database. And why are we concerned with that? We are concerned because there was an intense growth of the digitalization of services and of the use of gov.br amid the pandemic, and we have a lot of concerns regarding the national database and the national identity that we are going to talk a little bit more about in the next section. So over to you, Nathan.
Good morning to everyone. As Marina said, my name is Nathan, and I will be talking about the Brazilian National Identity System, or as we call it here, the ICN. Formally created in 2017, the ICN was conceived by a joint effort of the federal government and the Superior Electoral Court, and both of which were responsible for the draft bill that was further approved in the Congress. The idea of the system is twofold. It means that the system intends to give each citizen a national unique identity number, at the same time that the national identity document will carry other official information from other government identity documents. When you give a close look at the ICN federal law, it enables us to identify some concerns related to informational architecture, databases access, and governance. Regarding the information architecture, the system uses a centralized database as it concentrates in one central database a series of other databases from different government entities and levels created with different functions, such as the biometric database from the Superior Electoral Court and the National Identity Database from the Federal Police. The biometric database is from the Superior Electoral Court, obviously, and the National Identity Database from the Federal Police. And the system uses several different databases. It has mixed data from the civil and criminal databases, which can have an impact on data quality. And regarding data quality, recently the Superior Electoral Court created a committee to deal with inconsistencies related to biometric data, revealing the existence of problems related to biometric data quality. And one of the other concerns is related to databases access, as the law allows access to the ICN database for both of the executive and legislative powers of any federative units. This access, it's not, you can't access the electoral data from this database, but all the other data, you can have full access of it for it. And for such access, the ICN law did not establish any procedure to ensure data protection rights. And besides these issues, a key governance concern deserves to be highlighted. And the first one is that Brazil has faced some recent security incidents involving some governmental databases, such as the data leaking from the Ministry of Health. Another concern related to governance is that the ICN law established the ICN steering committee, and however, this committee has no multi-stakeholder composition, since it's composed only by representatives of the executive, legislative, and judiciary powers. And the third and last concern relates to the authoritarian tendencies and instabilities brought by the federal government here in Brazil, which can have several negative impacts on data protection rights and eventually turn the Brazilian identity system into a massive surveillance tool. And to finalize our presentation here today, I'll call again Marina Meira, and it's to you, Marina. It's with you.
Thanks, Nathan. If you can jump to the other slide, thanks. So what is common ground? You can jump to, to these concerns that our study highlights is that the proposal, the discussions, and the approval of the ICN's draft bill were held before the approval of the Brazilian General Data Protection Law, which we call LGPD. It's not that before the approval of our data protection law, there were no legal texts on this theme, but it was the LGPD that set basic principles, rights of data subjects, and specific rules on the informational separation of powers and on the processing of personal data by the public sector. After the approval of the LGPD, however, no modifications were made in the ICN federal law or regulations in order to include guarantees or obligations related to data protection. So considering the establishment of principles and obligations that privilege and guarantee the rights of the data subjects, the ICN adequacy to the Brazilian Comprehensive Data Protection Law could solve the main concerns that we have just pointed out. Next slide, please. And finally, looking to the future, what we would like to stress is that the Brazilian ICN is an ongoing initiative that hasn't yet been officially launched and which has not yet dealt with data protection issues. So our work on this project aims to contribute to this discussion. As part of our advocacy efforts, we have organized closed workshops with government employees to discuss the importance of accountability measures in digital identity initiatives. And we will also continue to develop research on the topic and should publish a policy paper early 2022. So watch out. And finally, that's it. You can jump to the next slide, Nathan. I just wanted to thank you all very much for listening to us. We're more than open to questions and also open to continue discussing the topic. So if you're interested in it, feel free to email us. We'll be glad to continue talking to you. And thank you again.
Thank you very much. And it's obviously an advantage in having three speakers because you keep to time perfectly. And that happened earlier. So great. Well done. Very interesting. So actually, this just my question is relates to the previous speaker in a way. So the last point you made was that the Brazilian kind of legislature has kind of done its legislation in the wrong order. So it's been bringing in a system for ID before a system for privacy and for digital privacy. And it seems like, well, you know, the general problem is what your rights and obligations are and responsibilities with privacy in general. So government databases and what the consequences are for breaches that you mentioned. And then you think of specific examples of technologies that rely on data, and identity is just one technology of many, and it's a kind of sub-component. And it's a bit like people designing, ID systems to gain access to a right, or like welfare, without considering that the welfare is already being delivered, and then you get less people getting welfare. So I guess if you require people to have digital ID to prove they're alive, unless people can get at that technology, then they're going to be assumed dead, right? And then they're not going to get a pension, and then they will be dead, of course, which is very convenient for a government trying to save money. Sorry, that's dark humor, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so I'm interested in how this is a very technical question, and not for me. Maybe other people would be interested in how are government legislations, how they audit, how did they get initiatives get made to set up what order things are done in? You know, how would you end up doing ICN before LGDP? Why would somebody in the people that draft law, would you think somebody there who'd be an expert would say, well, this requires something else first, right?
Yeah, I mean, so actually the ICN draft bill was proposed in 2017. By then we had discussions in the parliament about our general data protection law, but it hadn't yet been approved. But actually the idea of creating a digital ID in Brazil goes back to the 90s. And it hadn't yet been established. So it comes way before data protection being discussed in the parliament or in public areas. So it is one of our big concerns. And even if it hadn't been approved yet, the LGPD, data protection law, we believe that by the moment it was approved, the other laws and regulations that already existed, especially regarding such massive initiatives as digital IDs, they should be looked back into and see if they were adequate enough. And we believe that not really, but it hasn't yet been discussed. And actually, even though it was approved in 2018, our data protection law only came into force last year. So Brazil doesn't really have yet a data protection culture, a strong data protection culture. So it's something we want to highlight with our study, and we're hoping to draw attention to it. Yeah, I'm not sure if Marina and Nathan want to compliment me, but I think that's our general point of view.
No, I think that's interesting. And I think there's another question about Linnet. John, I don't know if I can jump to that.
Yeah, sure, please.
Linnet, I think that one interesting point about the system that we are saying is that the government is not a single entity. So what we are saying is you cannot be a small city requesting an information about a citizen from another city that has no pertinence to your job. Why are you requesting it? Has to have a procedure, has to have a pertinence. Why would you want it? The government should not be seen as a whole thing. And also, I think we're not talking about exactly privacy, but we are talking about data protection, which is a different discussion than actually privacy. So this is what we are concerned, not putting it all together, which is kind of what the law does. Puts criminal data with civil data, puts electoral data together, uses biometric electoral data to identify everyone, and then any level of the government, be either executive, legislative, judiciary, can access this whole big database for whatever purpose. And so that's our concern.
Okay, that's really great. Thanks. I think that, and I appreciate the different branches of government very much in the UK. Every bit of government doesn't work with any other bit of government. So any system that integrates them all better respect the fact that there is a certain amount of firewalls between different bits of government. And obviously then they start to look like lots of different private companies. And then you should have the same rights and controls there as well.